My name is Steven Hernandez, as you can probably read on the screen. Um, so today we're going through the Studio Ghibli workshop. If you have the document open, it's also in the project files. It's in that folder with a bunch of the other stuff, like the textures and all that. And basically what we'll be going through is kind of outlined on that document. We'll be kind of running through 4 main steps where we'll be doing creating stylized grass from a texture. And then we'll be doing creating cloud and fog volumes using the Eevee render engine. And then actually skip a step, we'll be using the images as planes add-on to decorate the scene. And then we'll compose and light the scene using the Blender sky texture. So, and then also after that, there's kind of like a bonus thing that we can go through. There's a sample blend file in that project like folder, which after we're done, we can either start from that or I'll open it or everyone else can open it too. And we can explore some of these created like actual volumetric, like kind of like toon shaded like clouds and like trees and stuff. And so we can kind of explore that and see how some of those work. But otherwise for now, let's just get Blender open and then start a new file, just a new general Blender file. And I'll begin to share my screen as well. Cool. So what we'll do first is just kind of like pre-set up the project. We'll go into the Edit tab on the top left and scroll down to Preferences. And once that opens up a window, there'll be an Add-ons tab kind of on the left. We'll click that and then go to the search bar and type in images as planes. And mine is already checked, but if you're just not, just check it on. And that kind of sets us up for a little later in the project. And then once we got that set up, we'll start to move forward. We'll start with the grass. So, all right, as with all Blender projects, we'll start with deleting the default cube.
No, not the cube.
Yeah, rip. So I'm also gonna move the light out of the way.
Okay.
If anyone's not familiar with the base like Blender shortcuts, we're not gonna do anything crazy today with shortcuts, but mainly all you need to know is you click on an object, G is how you move it, and it just moves around like screen space. R is how you rotate. This is just a spotlight, so that doesn't really matter. And then S is how you scale.
What was G? That was move.
G is move, which kind of doesn't make sense. Yeah. Oh, and then the other main shortcut, but it's also listed a bunch of times on the document, is Shift A, and you'll do that to add anything or like kind of whatever we're doing. So, and then anything else I'll just explain as we go on. So to start, we'll hit Shift A and go to Mesh and click Plane. And you'll see on the bottom left, there'll be an add plane kind of like little prompt. And I'll size mine up to around like, there's a size little box. You can type in like 10. Actually, I'm gonna do 20. And that just sizes it up. From there, we'll hit Tab while selecting the plane, and that brings us into edit mode. So you'll kind of see it probably turns yellow, and some of the buttons on the left side change, like the icons and stuff. So while we're selecting our plane, we'll right click it, hit subdivide, and you'll see another little prompt on the left where it says subdivide. There's a number of cuts window. We'll type in 10. And that brings us a little more subdivisions, a little more polygons to work with here. And I'll tab back out of edit mode. Actually, no, sorry, we'll stay in edit mode. So tab back in if you exited it. Right here on the top left, you'll see 3 little icons. These are for how you select an edit mode. Right now I'm on vertex, so this just selects specific points on our mesh. Yeah, so basically just right click when you're in edit mode, the view with all the icons left, you'll see a little prompt here that says edit mode. Just right click it, hit subdivide. It's one of the first little buttons that shows up. And there'll be a window that appears on the top left, and it'll say number of cuts for the first prompt, and you'll hit 10. or type in 10. So as I was saying, right here on the top left, there's a few little selection modes. The next one was edge, and the last one is face, which is what we'll be working with. And you'll see when you click, like when you enable it and click around your mesh, it selects some of the actual faces on the plane. And from there, yes, okay, so we'll turn on proportional editing, which it's kind of like it's this little circle up here. There's some deeper settings, but we don't really need to go into those right now. Just enable it. And from there, we can select some of our faces. Press G, and you'll probably see a little circle that comes up. If you're working on a mouse, you can like scroll it up to increase like the weight of how you're moving your stuff around. You'll kind of see it like pulls and pushes multiple faces around. So we'll just do that, kind of create like an interesting look for our landscape here. Maybe like size down this side.
How did you get used to ramp up like that?
Yeah, so if you have a scroll wheel, like increase it.
Yeah, there's like the circle. If it's bigger, it affects a larger area. If it's smaller, it affects a smaller area. Sometimes it's so big you don't see it at first. So you have to like scroll in.
Yeah.
And then you use your mouse wheel to like scroll and make that circle bigger. And then as it gets bigger, it affects more.
Oh, right on. Okay, thank you.
I like that feature of Blender. I feel like it's kind of intuitive once like you know what it is.
Yeah, I try using it more than like the sculpting mode or anything.
Yeah, I'm not good at sculpting in 3D.
Yeah.
Or just in general, I guess.
Okay, so awesome. I created a few little hills here. You also might want to imagine kind of where you're going to place your camera. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to be here at like this corner. So kind of like looking at this view, I'll be looking towards these sort of hills here that show up. I agree, polymollies
Yeah.
a bit better.
Yeah.
So once we have some of our grass, or like not our grass, but like this plane kind of deformed to how we like it, if we're ready to move forward, what we will do next is click onto the particle properties. Actually, I'll tab out of edit mode first. So now I'm just selecting the entirety of my plane at once. From there, I'll tab into particle properties, and we'll kind of see this blank area show up on the right side. I'll click the plus button, and that creates a new particle system. And let me just double check my stuff here. So from here, we'll click hair that appears right beneath, and you'll see instantly it creates a whole bunch of these super long strands. Just before we move forward, we'll click the rendering properties, and it's kind of like this camera, like kind of looks like the back of a camera right here. We'll click that, scroll down to hair, and by default, strand will be selected. We're going to change that to strip. And it might shorten a little bit, but we'll edit as we go forward. So we'll go back into the particle properties, these like 3 little dots here that show up. We'll go down to the emission, which is just beneath where we clicked hair earlier. You'll see number. That's just the number of particles that appear in our plane. They're not really super like, at least I haven't noticed on my cheap MacBook that it doesn't really cause a ton of like processing trouble. So I'm gonna increase it to around like 6,500, and it's obviously becomes.
On my old Surface, if I had more than like 100 particles, it would be like screaming at me.
I mean, this will definitely start screaming. So.
So I'm so sorry. I went to the particle system, selected hair, but how did you get to the strip feature?
Yeah, so the strip is actually in the rendering properties. So kind of like this, it looks like the back of a camera.
Is that what that's supposed to be?
I think so,
I
yeah.
thought it was supposed to be like an old timey TV. And
Oh my gosh, you guys.
But you'll click that, and then there's a hair drop down a little lower. You might have to scroll a little bit. You'll click into that, and then select strand.
I don't see the hair in 3.2.
Maybe I missed this.
Are you on?
Oh, wait, no, never mind. I see it.
I'm checking.
Does it not show up on
It's
yours?
under curves, not hair anymore in
What's the difference
3.2.
between a strand and
Joe
a
is saying
stroke
something.
of hairs?
Sorry, what were you saying?
I said it's under curves, not hair anymore.
Oh, I see. It's called curves.
Okay.
Oh, like the newest version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, why bother renaming it?
Well, I mean,
They're
they're
just gonna
releasing 3.3 like later this year because it's on beta right now.
Weird.
Cool. I'm putting on the chat.
Wacky.
Awesome.
Alright.
Love them for doing that.
Their timing is just excellent. I guess my blender isn't updated yet. I think
I'm
it's still 3.1.
Yeah, same on 1.3.1.
Yeah, okay, that's the end of the plan. That's cool. So it's all in the same order. Cool. Great.
Cool.
Then you can move on.
Are we good?
Mhm.
Awesome. So what we just did was we adjusted the number on emission to around 6,500. And beneath that, you'll see a box that says hair length. Mine's set around 4 meters right now, but that's a little too much. So I'm gonna decrease it a bit. Might be a little hard to see, so you might need to adjust the angle of like your views just so you can see how long it is. I'm gonna make mine I'm gonna do around just 1 meter. I think that probably works well for now.
How come yours like sprouted?
What do you mean?
Mine is still bald. My hills are still bald, even though I have the plane and the particle system.
Did you switch it to hair? And
I think I did.
huh. And you
Strand, subdivisions. emissions.
oh, you're in edit mode. Tab out.
Ah, beautiful.
There you go.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, so we adjusted the hair length. We'll also, right beneath that, click segments. And I'll just drop that down to the minimum, which is 2. So it's also kind of decreases the, I don't even know what I was gonna say. Yes. So, okay, now we'll scroll down. While we're still in that particle system window, we'll scroll down a bit and there's a drop down that says render. I'll click that drop down and we'll go a little further down. You'll see a path like sub drop down that's in there.
Mhm.
And you'll see a box that says steps. Right now mine's at 3. I'll turn that to 2. And then a little further, I'll close the render drop down. Go to children, that comes up, and swap that to simple. Right now mine is set to none. We'll go to simple.
Oh, it's chunky.
Yeah, it makes it quite a bit chunkier. All right, and from there,
Yeah.
there's another sub drop down where it says
Another sub.
clumping, and we will adjust the clump and shape to what a number that I found good was around like -0.3. But you can also like scroll that around and kind of change it to how you like.
Can't really tell the difference.
I think, is yours still like super like strandy, like thin? Kind of like the one on like.
I can see it, but it's like not like super drastic, you know what I mean?
To me, it just looks like a wild Kansas wheat. It looks very natural and organic.
Okay, so what we'll do from there, honestly, just because, not honestly, but what we'll do is adjust the shape of it. So we'll scroll down to hair shape. It's a little further down. Pretty sure just the next one actually. And we'll change specifically, yeah, diameter root.
Oh, you can just make them vanish.
And you can just kind of change how what's your preferred.
Is that like that's the diameter of like the particle, right?
Yeah. Honestly, what I found is like you kind of got to experiment with it a bit.
Mhm.
Even like you might even need to go back up to, where was it? Back to hair length and emission and change it down if you need to. Yeah, like when I make it a little shorter, you can kind of see how like it clumps a bit more if you're looking at it from straight above. Even from like the side, you'll see a bit more like spaces.
It's a thick grass.
So we have a question from Joe. It looks like her hair is looking like triangle shapes.
Yeah, so what you'll need to do is like, are they like just like fat, I guess? Like,
Yeah, they're like that, basically.
yeah, so either the diameter root on like on the hair shape tab might be too big. Honestly, I would just try playing with some of those values, specifically in the hair shape tab. Actually, there's two boxes on the hair shape drop down. They both start with diameter, but the top one is root diameter and the bottom one is diameter scale. That one, I think if you increase it at all, it kind of makes it super like triangly.
Oh.
But it's
I see.
The top one is the root diameter.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. But for mine, I'm just gonna make mine a little. I think I'll stick around 2.7 meters for the root diameter. Cool. Yeah, so if you have your grass where you like it, we can move forward. And I'm gonna just close some of these drop downs to clean up my window here. I actually am gonna increase the length of my grass just a little bit. Yeah, so if yours is still stringy, it's gonna be in the hair shape tab is where you need to adjust like the settings here.
And just to say, if we need to have a shop and swap the screen share, we can do it too.
Yeah. I'll make mine a little fatter too, just as we.
Even when I adjust it to 10, this is going to change. Okay, we've got two questions from Elizabeth and Charlotte. Even when I adjust it to 10 meters, it doesn't seem to change. My first thought is, are they both in object mode to make sure they can see the edits, but see what you think? Should we stop and take a look?
Yeah, can you guys share your screen? I'll stop sharing mine.
We're going to stop and ask folks to screen share.
This is my screen. I don't know. It just always looks like this, no matter what I do.
Yeah.
Is it useful to delete the plane and start again?
Maybe, but we might not need to do that. I'm trying to see if maybe could have missed a step here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, did you go when you were in the children tab, did you change it to simple? Yeah. Weird.
I don't know if we have actually played like hair shape. Did we put that down?
Yeah, we were in the hair shape adjusting the actual like properties of it.
Oh, that's right. Grass.
This is what the gamers are built for. Exactly.
I'll go outside and touch the grass.
Oh, I think I know what your thing might be. Go to the render properties. It up on the top left. Yeah. Did you change it to strip? Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Brutalist Ghibli at your disposal. Awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So in the hair shape, you can just adjust it to your liking and stuff. And
Very cool. Yeah. And strip was in the render settings under hair.
yes. But on 3.2, it was curves, I believe. Some of these values are also on the document as well, if you need to follow from there too. So
Thank you. I can probably stop sharing now.
cool. Just let me know if you have like any other questions about that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna try to adjust it to the values from the document.
Cool. I'll reshare my screen. Should I move forward or wait
Yeah,
a second?
If we're all ready to go, if everyone's comfortable, we can move forward. Just give us a reaction emoji to let us know that you're ready. Awesome. I see Joe and Declan are ready.
Cool. So I'll just I'll move forward, but I'll move forward slowly.
Sweet.
So I'll select our plane, and on the top of the blender window, there's a shadowing or a shading tab. I'll click that, and it might take a second because it's gonna do some stuff.
Oh, we're going to shade.
Yes.
I was
All
like,
right.
huh?
Yeah. Okay. So from here, while we're selecting our plane, you'll see like a node editor that appears here at the bottom. It's kind of just like, looks kind of like a graph, and there's a big like new button right in the middle of it. I'll click that, and this creates a principled BSDF shader. This is just kind of like the basic Blender shader. We don't need it right now, actually. We're just gonna right click and delete it.
Oh.
So what we'll do from here is, also just for now, kind of in the spot where we click new, it'll say like material and like a number. I'm just gonna rename that to grass just for posterity.
Wait, so you just deleted the principal BDSF node?
So in our node editor, I'll use Shift A, kind of similar to what you do like in the layout window. And I'll go to, where does it appear? All right, I'll go to where it says shader, go to the right, and there's one that says emission. I'll click that, and it brings up this like little node looking thing. The right node, I'll connect that to surface. And right now what I'll do is, so while this is like here, you should see like kind of like a file browser on the left side of your screen, and we'll navigate to where our project files are. So what you downloaded with all the textures and stuff, we'll go to that. Mine right now is on my desktop. So thankfully the desktop folder appears right here, and my Ghibli source file is also right here.
I don't have the material output.
Oh, delete this.
Can you add? You can probably add it.
It also might be like, because sometimes like you lose it if you move a certain way.
Oh my
my god, this is so cool.
Did you connect it?
Yeah, I got the graphs.
Yeah.
That's epic.
So from here, if you navigated to your files, there's a few grass textures in there that you can play with. I think I put 3 in. I'm gonna choose one that I haven't used before. I'll use Ghibli grass.png. I'll just drag and drop that into the node editor on the bottom and connect the color node to the color on emission. And voila, you should see some neat looking grass appear, looking very toon-like. And you can also just like play around with it. So you can delete the one you dropped in, put in one of the other ones, connect it again.
How do you add the PNGs to the?
You can just drag and drop them from the file browser on the left into the node window.
Into the node window.
Or
Yeah.
like, if you don't have the one on the side there, you can just open your file viewer and do the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm like drag it in. Drag it in. So I have no idea where my
You just grab the grass.
the only thing I see are Adobe Visual Studio Code and Zoom.
Oh, that's so actually mine does that too. I have to
The
like
3 genders.
click the back button and go all the way back to my root folder.
No idea where it is.
Ooh, that is so satisfying.
Yeah, it's really like I don't know, it's cool. It's cool because it like does it like immediately.
Immediately.
And suddenly it just like starts to come together a bit.
I've
Yeah.
never made a mission ever, so this is really exciting.
So
First
Does it
time
actually like
too?
emit, or is it just like an ambient color?
Listen, it's emitting on my heart.
it doesn't really
Yes.
it doesn't really act as an emission. It's more like an unlit texture,
So just like ambient light then.
pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Why
So
don't they just put ambient?
I don't know.
Make more sense.
Mission sounds
So that completes our like the grass section of our little tutorial.
That's it for grass?
Yeah. You can also like always go back and adjust like the clumping or whatever, anything to your liking.
Look at these textures, by the way.
I just Googled them.
They're just like, oh yeah, give me
Yeah.
graphs. I'll do specific.
But
There you
if
go.
I were to have a program like Procreate, and if I were to
Mhm.
make, for example, like a 2D digital painting, I could
Absolutely.
then bring this in.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Put grass all over your art.
And what it's doing is it's taking the color patterns from the 2D plane and basically like shooting that. up
Exactly.
into
Like
the
if you
image.
look directly above, it's
Mhm.
just the texture.
It's just the texture.
But-
So
It's just
brilliant.
sampling from the vertex colors. Right?
Exactly.
Brilliant.
So the next step,
Get
like
really close to the graph. It's super cool. So you can see all the colors.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
Where'd you go to change company?
clumping is in the particle properties. When you select the plane, it kind of looks like a dot with like 3 dots extending from it. And clumping itself is in children. And there's like a sub drop down to adjust that. Yeah. So from here, we can move into like doing a little bit of decorating.
Mhm.
So using the images as planes add-on from earlier, what we can do just to start is in our layout window, I swapped mine to the material preview just so I can see like textures and stuff like that. You can do the same if you'd like, or you don't have to. It'd probably work better though. So you can hit Shift A from here. It'll bring up the add little prompt. You can go to image. And since we imported the add-on earlier, you'll see images as planes come up. And that just brings up a file browser again. You'll have to navigate to your folder again. Go to your textures and stuff. What was the
I
message?
might have missed this earlier. My computer crashed. But is there a way to make the plane less angular and more curved edges?
Yeah, so that would just be like subdivisions in the, when you hit tab into edit mode, you'll right click it, subdivide, and do it a couple times.
Just playing with it more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So when you hit the add images as planes and you go to your texture, like the file repository, you can click any of the PNGs we have here.
Mhm.
One of the examples I made last night was I used the link one. So you'll click it. You don't need to edit any materials here since I've already like, they're already kind of set up. import images as planes. Might take just a little second, and it'll appear in here. You'll see it probably highlighted. You might need to move it around your scene, and probably like scale it up as well. And here I'm kind of imagining, you know, I'm gonna be looking at it from like this point of view.
Can you add like multiple particle systems? Oh, you can.
Yeah, so I was gonna say that's like another
I
thing.
was gonna just do like a flower particle
Mhm,
system. 'Cause it's so lazy
exactly.
to manually place them.
Yeah. Yeah, so what Tatum was saying, you can either just like manually place some of the decoration, or on your plan again, you can add a second particle system and make it some of the other PNGs. But for now, I'm just gonna manually place them because I don't think I'm gonna put like a ton of stuff.
I'm far too lazy to manually place all these flowers. I'm making a particle system.
Yeah, we can just spend a few minutes just adding some stuff.
See if I can remember how to do this. We're not doing the hair pack. You can just a normal hair, right?
I don't exactly remember. I'm pretty sure it is just right.
How do you add the images again? Oh, is it right clicking the screen? Hmm.
In our layout, you'll hit Shift A. You'll see a prompt come up. You'll see image kind of like in the middle of it. You'll scroll over that and click images as planes. And you'll need to navigate to the folder where you have all your textures and stuff. And you'll be able to drop something in there. Yeah. So I'm also gonna add like a couple of the bushes and stuff into the scene.
You got something great. Oh, cool.
And what's really cool is like adding like the giant cloud as well. Thank you. It was when I used to like there's a little bit back there. I like change the background. Okay, there we go.
If I can interject really quickly, because Noah and I did this workshop over the weekend where hardware crashed. Just a friendly reminder to press save if you haven't yet, y'all.
Yeah, I actually need to hit that as well. I didn't do it.
Save.
I'm gonna make a position in Blender. I forget where to find settings.
I feel like particle systems are just confusing. Like the settings for them.
Now, forgive me if this is getting ahead, but is there a way to program the scene so if you have 2D images as planes, if you're moving a camera through Blender, that the planes auto rotate to keep in view with the camera?
I'm not. Yeah,
Is
you
that
can
what
like.
it's called?
There is a way to do it. I did one project where I essentially had a few things just follow like it wasn't they weren't rotating, but they were following the position of my camera.
Okay.
Essentially, I think I just basically parented them to it. But I think rotation would work a little different, but it is possible. Yeah. And it's cool to like try and create depth with some of like your images and stuff. just to make a little more of an interesting scene.
Oh,
How do you like check out like the view from
Yeah, so I listed it kind of at the end when we're like on the document, but just to show now, what you can do is hit 0 on your keyboard, and that'll bring you into your camera view in the viewport. And if you want to move that around, you'll hit N on the keyboard, and then I'll bring up the side menu. And there's a tab called View. You'll click that, and there's a little checkbox here that says, you have to scroll over it probably, but it says camera to view, lock camera to view. You'll check that. And so now if you stay in your camera, hit N to exit out of that. If you stay in your camera view, you can just rotate, and it's moving the camera with your view.
wait, so 0 is to check out the camera view?
0 is to check out the camera view, and if you want to lock it and move it right now, you'll hit N, view, and then lock camera to view.
Is that like a
In-
is it in the-
Yeah, usually there's a,
you have to end over on outside panel?
yeah, 0 just isn't doing anything for you. What you might need to do is go to edit and then preferences and key map. I believe you'll have to click, or let me double check. Yeah, you have to go to input, emulate numpad in the keyboard area.
Okay.
And then I believe we'll,
Is there a reason why mine kind of looks like grayed out or like there's no light? I don't know.
Snap the camera to
yeah, like lock it and then move it around.
yeah.
So that's, yeah, when you hit N to open up the side menu, you'll go into view, and then there's a checkbox that says lock camera to view. So when you click 0 and rotate around, it's moving your camera.
Oh, beautiful. So wait, oh, this is so helpful. When was that?
Blender's weird like that.
Yeah, I remember I never settle with cameras much because they make it so stupidly impossible for me.
Just let us know when you guys like kind of have at least some of your like majority of your decorations put in, and we can move forward. Otherwise, we can just stay here all day putting our stuff together.
I'm happy.
Yeah, I had a thought.
Yes, where's the facts?
Can you say again how you move the camera so lock it?
Yes.
And what do you press to make it so when you move your
Yeah.
move and it moves the camera?
I picked a lock.
Folks who are joining us on Zoom, can you give us a check-in? Just give us a text in the chat to let us know how you're doing. We have a question from Charlize about moving and locking the camera. If you can go over that one more time, Steven.
Yeah. So if you're working on a laptop or something, I'll just start with the emulate numpad part, just to make sure you can like enter the view and stuff. Go to edit, preferences, and then in input, you'll see emulate numpad on the top. Just make sure that's checked, and then you can exit out preferences. From there, if you click 0 on the top of your keyboard, it'll switch into the camera view. And from there, if you want to actually move it and start composing like the view you'll see, click N on your keyboard. It'll open the side panel, and there's a view tab. You go into there, and there's a button here that says view lock. You'll hit lock, you'll check lock camera to view. It's the second one. So just make sure that's checked. You can press N to click out of it. And when you rotate, it actually moves your camera with your view. Does it help? Awesome. So from now, we can move into fog and cloud volumes, which is also pretty cool. I'm gonna make sure to save my scene again, just so we don't lose it. And I found an interesting way to do this was using meta balls. If anyone's familiar with them in Blender, I'll swap back into the viewport shading just for now. And I'll just move around my scene. And what we can do is click Shift A, and up here near like the meshes and stuff, you'll see meta ball. So I'll scroll over that, click ball, and you'll see one kind of appears at like the center of your frame, kind of where the cursor is. I'm just gonna move that up and out of the way just so I can like see it. I'm gonna shift my view over to it a little bit and zoom in. And what's really cool, so while this is selected, I'm gonna hold Shift and then D to duplicate, and it duplicates the same exact one. And it kind of creates like these morphed balls together.
Cool.
And you can just play with like the scale and stuff and position of the duplicated meta balls to,
Or metaballs anyway.
I don't know, they're just something.
There's something.
And we'll do that and kind of create something that looks a little cloud-like. So we'll just duplicate a few times, kind of like this. I'll rotate the other way, kind of add some to the side. And it's not like an exact science, like it's gonna turn to a cloud volume anyways, so even if you just make something a little irregular, it'll still work and look cool.
Oh, it's so fun. I've been looking forward to this workshop all day.
One thing that looks actually really cool is if you duplicate like the side ones
Okay.
and move them a little off to the side and size them down a little bit.
Little off guide.
Yeah, just create like a couple tiny ones, maybe even like connect them a little bit. I'll even do the same to the.
Did you have to make a new meta ball?
I just duplicated the same one.
But using the same process of Shift D or?
Yeah, just Shift D. Still works.
Oh, and then if you're not holding it, just disconnect.
Yeah. Mine kind of looks a little low res, which is weird, but that's okay.
Can you like up the res?
I'm sure you can, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm not a metabol expert.
I'm metabol expert.
You need to click the resolution viewport and then bring it down.
So what we can do now, if you kind of made your like metabol looking cloud thing. Well, okay.
Everybody does not say them.
What I'm gonna do is just highlight all of them. Just click and drag, select all of them. And at the top of your window, you'll see a button that says Object. I'll click that. Large drop down appears. I'll scroll down. There's a Convert tab at the bottom. I'll scroll over to Convert and select Mesh. And and that just basically joins everything and it makes it a mesh because meta balls themselves aren't actually meshes. It's kind of like, I think so. I don't know. I was thinking of them as like vectors, kind of like, and
Yeah,
like,
that's probably what we're
yeah. So that converts it as a mesh. And from here is where we'll get pretty cloud-like. So from our view, after we've connected them as a mesh, we'll hit Shift A, and you'll see volume here, kind of up in the top area. Scroll over volume and click empty. And so let me just check my thing here.
Where was the mesh command? Go back and take us through that mesh command again.
Yes, like to convert to the mesh. So what you'll do is select all of your meta balls. Mine are already joined right now, but you'll click and drag. And then at the top, you'll see an object button. Click that, scroll down to convert, kind of near the bottom. Scroll over that, and there'll be a button that says mesh. And if you have all your meta balls selected, just click mesh and it'll just do the work for you. It'll join all of them, convert them into a polygonal mesh. Yeah. So what we did right after that was we use Shift A to create a volume. You'll click it and then empty. I just created mine already, so I'll make sure that's selected. You probably won't see anything because it's like just like an empty object. But if you have it selected in your inspector, you'll select the volume. Okay. And you'll go to the modifiers tab on the bottom, which looks like a little wrench. You'll click that and click add modifier, and only a few show up. You'll hit mesh to volume. And this little modifier prompt comes up. You'll see an area that says object. You'll click the little eyedropper, click it, your cursor will change to an eyedropper, and just click on the meta ball, like the cloud object in your scene. And it'll be a little fuzzy right now, but we'll change that in a second. But you'll probably see like just around the meta ball, it's kind of like a fuzzy sort of, yeah, kind of like it's a little shadowy volume type thing. From here, while we're in that modifiers tab, we'll adjust the density to 3 and the voxel amount to around 144. I'm actually gonna go back into my layout just so it's a little faster. But you might see kind of like a halo sort of effect kind of going on around it. Yeah, while you're selecting the volume, you'll hit add modifier and then mesh to volume right here.
I just have to catch myself up.
Yeah, I find I have to like
I
stop.
just
Yeah, I have to
finished my
stop creating and
cloud,
keep
so-
following.
Am I going too fast?
No, you're on just the right pace. You're doing just fine.
Awesome.
So wait, you added an empty and then
Yeah,
oh,
like the volume empty.
I was making a very, very cute cloud. I've got some flowery points, singular clouds. Wait, is a volume empty or an empty volume? Oh, wait.
Volume empty.
Do I set that to, do I like move it to the center of my cloud?
You can just leave it where it is.
Okay.
And because when you add the modifier, the mesh to volume, and you set the meta ball cloud object as like the object, it like automatically shifts it to it. Yeah, and then use the eyedropper to select the meta ball object. Yeah, yeah. And so then just for now, we'll set the density to 3 and the voxel amount to 144. And the voxel is basically just because like since it's a volume, it's like kind of have to think about it a little differently, where just kind of think of like cubes of like creating part of this volume with the cloud object. So from there, we'll click add modifier one more time, and you'll hit volume displace, and it should go right beneath the mesh to volume modifier we just made. And here, what we'll do is you'll see the modifier window come up at the bottom. You'll click new, and you'll see this thing that says texture up here. There'll be like a little slider thing on the very right side of that. It kind of looks like the little like slider icons you see like an iPhone or whatever. You'll click that. That brings you to the texture tab here at the bottom, the texture properties. And where it says type near the top here, right now it's set to image or movie. We'll click that drop down and move to clouds. And it basically creates a noise texture that will apply to the volume, and it'll create it a little more like wispy, like a wispy looking cloud. So if you scroll down a little bit where in the clouds drop down, we'll adjust the size to around 0.5. And yes, so once we adjust the size to 0.5, we can actually return back to the modifiers tab, like the little wrench. So we can click back to that, and you'll see your two modifiers that we were working with earlier. And here's where we can adjust some of this stuff. So because right now the strength is at 0.5, I'm going to change that to 2. And you'll see like immediately it's already looking a little more cloud-like. And if you want to see it better, actually, what you can do is up in the inspector, if you see like your metaball object, just click the hide and viewport button, and it'll remove it from the viewport. It looks like a little eye.
Oh, really? Oh, so I see. So many steps ago, we like merged all those metaballs that we made into this cool mesh.
Yeah.
I see. Very cool.
And it's converting that mesh into like a wispy looking volume.
Very well.
Mine is just this dark little spot right here.
Yeah.
In Eevee, it looks like it's not white yet.
Yeah, so we'll do that in a second. If you want to see it better, you can switch to the default like viewport shading, like the layout shading. It's kind of like the solid circle, and it'll appear more like this. Actually, what we can also do for that metaball object, just because we're not gonna need to worry about it anymore, actually, is there's a little camera button next to it. I'm gonna turn that off as well. Yeah. So yeah, what we'll do right now is while the volume itself is still selected, I'll go to the material properties, and it kind of looks like a checkered like circle kind of here near the bottom. And I'll hit new. It's taking a little second on mine. And there'll be a volume tab near the top. I'll click that. And the only thing we need to adjust right now is just the color. So you'll see like kind of like a off-whitish gray probably. Click that. And I'm just gonna move the slider on the right, the brightness value, and just put it all the way to the top. Because when we're doing the render. What was it?
Do you have to like turn the alpha down too?
I haven't messed with the alpha before. I haven't really like, it still shows up like correctly without changing the alpha.
Okay.
Mine looks like a proper rain cloud now.
Does it?
In render.
Yeah. Honestly, what I found works is that near the end when we light it with like a sunlight, it'll actually make it look a bit brighter.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like it works like physics in the real world, like you like to see things.
Yeah. So a cool thing we'll do here is while we're selecting the volume, once we created it to like these specifications, actually, okay, so there is a thing we can do here to kind of change it a little bit. What I'm going to use mine for is to create like kind of low-hanging fog near the ground. But if you just want to use it for like an actual cloud, you can just leave it be for now. But what I'll do, if you want to adjust like the density of it, make it a little wispier, a little less, a little more spread out, I guess. Basically, all we'll do is go back to the modifiers tab with the wrench, and in the mesh to volume modifier, which is the first one we added, it's the one that appears at the top. I'm gonna adjust the density down to 1, and it just makes it a little less dense. And you can change it to whatever you want. You can keep it dense, or you can make it like super light. Sometimes when it's lit though by like a directional light, even if it's super like low, it might not really be that visible. I found one is like a good spot for like a kind of like foggy sort of look. But that's just my preference. You can keep it high if you'd like to, if you want it to be like an actual cloud. Cool. Yeah. So what we'll do now is, all right. Yeah, this is pretty cool. So while we have our volume selected, once you've adjusted everything to your liking and stuff, once you have the volume selected, you'll click M and you'll see a new collection prompt appear. I'm gonna hit new collection and name it fog instance. And what I can do now is in the inspector, the fog instance collection appears at the very bottom. I'm gonna actually uncheck the little checkbox and the eye and the camera because we don't need the original instance of it at all. So what we can do now is once you've created that, is use Shift A, scroll down to collection instance at the very bottom. Actually, mine kind of appears out of view. Scroll into it at the very bottom, and you should see the fog instance created. You'll click that, and it basically creates a duplicate of it to just where you can create. And it's not going to be, because normally if you're moving like the actual fog volume and stuff, it's going to have to recalculate every like basically unit you adjust it. But when you create the instance, it's like baking a texture. So it creates it once and then you can just move it freely.
I'm so sorry. Can you give it a second?
Yeah, with the instance and stuff?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll just delete my current one and re-go through it. Yeah, so what I did is I had the original volume selected. Then I'll click M and select new collection. I'll name that something relevant. For mine, I'm gonna do fog instance. Hit OK. And you'll see at the bottom of your inspector, you'll see what you named it, fog instance. For the fog instance collection, you'll see like where it's named. You'll see like a checkbox, the eye, and the camera. I'm gonna unselect all of those. And then so to create multiple instances of your volume, you'll just use Shift A in your viewport. Scroll down to collection instance. It appears at the very bottom.
Wow.
And if you click fog instance, you can create multiple instances of your thingy.
Cool. And you can rotate it, so it's like a prefab.
Yeah, basically. And it might be like parented a little weird, like where like the origin is. Like if you rotate, it might be a little unusual. Yeah. But honestly, I've just figured I usually just try to work around it kind of. And you can move this wherever and you can create multiple. So you can just hit Shift A and add multiple instances and put them where you like. So for instance, if I go back into the material view, you can kind of see it. It might be kind of dark for now. That's just because we haven't lit our scene yet. But I'm gonna put mine kind of near the bottom, kind of to create a low-hanging fog effect. But otherwise, that completes the cloud section.
Sick.
And if your computer's having a hard time with like the volume, even though it's the instance and it is still a little bit lighter, it's not recalculating everything when you move it. You can just switch back to the layout view and like the default shading, so it isn't as intensive on your machine. So yeah, we'll pause here for a second. And once everyone's like ready to move forward to the final composing and lighting, you can do that.
It's a good time to check in with our Zoom folks. Just pop us in the chat, let us know how you're doing.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Charlize. Thank you, Steven, for leading us this way so far. It's been great.
You think we're good to go ahead? Or what, just a couple seconds. Nice. Cool. I'm just gonna go a little ahead now. Where you can start, we can start by just switching into the rendered view. And on the top right of our viewport, it's the very right little circle, and it says viewport shading rendered. Your scene might be a little dark, kind of like mine is right now. And that's just because we haven't lit it yet. So a cool trick I learned recently is using the Blender sky texture. And I found it kind of works kind of well in Eevee. And I would just check right now for anyone who just switched to render view. And if it's like going really slowly, check your render properties, the little camera button, and make sure your render engine is set to Eevee. If it's in cycles, it's gonna do some ray tracing. And it'll be pretty high quality, but it's gonna be very slow. Yeah, and we're mostly just working with like flat shaded stuff, so Eevee is perfect for it. So we're in Eevee, and what I think is pretty cool is, so we'll click the world properties. It looks like a little glow right here on the side. Click that, and you'll see a surface drop down here. You don't need to change much, but this yellow dot next to color, I'm gonna click that. It brings up this window. And in texture, you'll see sky texture. And I'm gonna click that. Might take a second to calculate. And right now, it's gonna be automatically set to Nishida. It appears
Clinical white.
Yeah. It's meant
Like
for
doctor's office.
it's meant for cycles, but
Okay.
I'm gonna click Nishida and switch it to Preetham.
Real words.
Yes.
I think so. Yeah. And that's gonna make it look a bit more natural, like,
you know, Preethium.
Yeah.
Preethyming.
It's got that turbidity to it.
Yeah.
It does.
Let me just double check my stuff.
What? I'm rotating the sphere and it's doing things.
Yeah, so if you rotate the sphere, you can kind of adjust how the sky looks. You can make it look, sometimes if you go too far, it might.
It's just like dark blue on the opposite.
Yeah.
Hello? Has the Blender staff ever touched grass? Do they know the sky doesn't turn like ultramarine blue at night?
I think the one like beneath it, like the Hosek / Wilkie one, is, yeah, right beneath Preetham, kind of looks like a little bit more like it's for nighttime, I feel like.
Oh yeah, you're right.
But I don't know. It's making my computer chub right now, so yeah, make sure to save in case you crash.
Yeah, save.
I feel like with the screen share, mine's freaking out.
Like the tint of the skyline?
I found a good kind of like direction to put mine. It's kind of like facing towards the right, like the sphere kind of pushed to the right.
I wonder what the logic is behind this whole like rotate sphere sky thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of neat, but
So I noticed that your background has a little bit more blue on it, but that's just because the way the camera is pitched in addition
Yeah.
to your
mhm,
color,
yeah,
like trim is painting whatever it is, so the sphere.
yeah. That sphere, it's technically it's called it's sun direction. So just imagine like
Right.
where
Oh,
like
so like if I move my directional lights, that has an effect on it.
I haven't found that your directional light has an effect on the actual sky texture.
Oh, really?
But what I found best is that when I will create a new directional light right now, because normally it just you start Blender with a spotlight or a point light. We'll switch out to a sun in a second, and I try to match it with the angle of our sky texture. It doesn't need to be exact, but just to kind of make it look a little more convincing. So we're not just having like a shadow coming in from one side and then the sun, like the horizon stuff, facing the other. So we just adjusted the sun direction in the sky texture window. What I'll do now is I'm going to scroll out a little bit. I'm going to find the, I'm going to actually switch to the default shading again, just so I can run a little faster. I'm going to find the light that I have in my inspector. It's the one that was like in there initially when we spawned in. I'm going to move it up a little bit just so I can kind of get it out of the way, kind of like up into the center to the right of my thing. And in the lighting properties, with the light selected, it looks like a little light bulb. I'm going to click that. And right now it's set to point. I'm going to click it to sun. And I'm going to, there's like a little, you'll see a line kind of ejecting from that sunlight. You can click that, the little dot that shows up, and point it to where you want it to angle at on your stuff. You also, it's going to probably make it very bright if you switched it from the point light. You'll need to switch the strength. Right now it's set at 1,000 by default. That's way too much. So I'm going to just drop mine to 2.
Oh, I made mine 10.
Talk about it.
Otherwise, my clouds are gray.
Yeah.
So I think made my sun very powerful.
But that should light up some of your stuff a little bit more, make it a bit more bright.
Wait, where did you find this? Skybox? Oh, wait, no.
Yeah.
I'm having a bit of trouble. Like my clouds are always just they're not white. They're just like blackish. And I changed like the color
Yeah.
to white
And
and
you already
red
added the
mission.
light.
As the what?
What was that?
Oh no, you go first. What'd you say?
Oh, I was just saying, did you already like add like the light and the sky texture and stuff?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I don't know. The clouds are just weird, honestly. If you want to adjust the actual like texture and stuff of the clouds, you'll have to re-enable the original fog instance we made and click the original volume. And if you go into the material properties for that, I'm right now in the shading tab, selecting the original volume. We can adjust some of the values in here. So
Making my clouds change. Just this. I just changed the color of my light. Look.
I found just by general, they're pretty
So pretty.
dim as it is. A cool fix, honestly, that might work is if we create a second light, actually.
Are you chatting with us or to the class?
Okay, right. I have.
Oh yeah, I'll chat to the class. This actually was gonna help everyone. Yeah, so if your clouds are a little too dim for your liking, you can use Shift A to create a new light, and you can create a point light. And I'm basically just gonna move that directly, pretty much like into where the cloud is. And I'll go back into my other settings, increase like the power of it and stuff, and it'll make your clouds a bit brighter. It's kind of like a hacky way of doing it, but
oh, it's the red.
It works though.
The red word. The word.
Okay.
Did that help at all?
Yeah, hold on. Let's see.
And what I was saying is just if your clouds are a little too dark,
Mhm.
just add like a second point light
Mhm.
and increase the power of it, and either put it like directly adjacent to your cloud or
Oh.
right inside.
So it's getting a little spotlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that, that kind of ends the
Oh, yeah, it's changing color. I see it.
yeah,
You
awesome.
gotta render it, Steve.
Yeah, well, no, hold on.
You're not
I didn't get there yet. I was gonna say we're done with the
done.
we're done with the whole layout stuff. There's some cool settings that we can add, make things look a little cooler. So what I'm gonna do right now is we were kind of explaining it earlier, but I'll go over it again. Where adjusting your camera view. So just click 0 to go into your camera view. If you have the emulate numpad preference set to on, take your camera view, click N on your keyboard, go to the View tab that appears on the right, and select Lock Camera to View. And from there, you can adjust and compose your shot. I kind of like where mine was right now, so I'm just going to put it right back there. And I like to just deselect that once I know I have it where I want it to, just so I don't accidentally move it at all. And what I like to do, it will take like another minute to render, even though we're in Eevee. But if you go, while you're in your camera view, where you click 0, go to the camera, like the actual camera in your inspector, click that, then go to the camera properties at the bottom, looks like a little film camera. And what I'll do here is enable depth of field. And you'll see a little box that says focus object. I'll click the eyedropper tool and select, in my case, link as the subject. It's depending on like the layering of your scene, you might be able to directly click on, but for me, it's like the fog is kind of appearing in front. So I need to select them from the inspector. But link is the focus object. And what I can do now is doing that also like automatically like auto focuses on your subject there. Right beneath where we just were, if you go to aperture and adjust the f-stop of, it kind of acts like a real camera lens. So f-stop right now, mine's at 2.8. The lower you go, the more out of depth like the closest plane to the camera is, while keeping like your subject in focus.
Oh yeah, how do you do the like what is f-stop? I don't know anything about
So the
cameras.
f-stop is related to the aperture. I'll stop you. Thanks for that talking, because I've totally forgotten all this.
Well, I can explain.
Oh yeah, let's
Yeah.
ask Steven.
Not to brag, but I am a part-time photographer, so.
Tell us, Steven. How
Aperture,
long was
okay,
that?
actually, I'm gonna be honest. I can't tell you this is like the guaranteed definition. But aperture is basically like the width of like the aperture,
So the
like
eyes
how
are-
wide the hole is, the light is coming through. So the higher your number is, like if you adjust it super high, that's gonna be like coming through a pinhole.
Yeah.
But when it's super low, like around 1.2, it's coming through a super wide hole, and that increases like the depth of field. It's like the amount of like background blur and foreground blur you see.
Up is more blur.
Up is less blur.
Okay,
Yeah.
I want more blur. I want to be dramatic. Ooh, not that dramatic. Ooh, less dramatic.
I think a good number for mine is like 1.6 right now.
Yeah, around there seems to be like the vibe. It's kind of hard to tell.
There you go. So
Yeah.
if somebody has a high aperture, they're on drugs. That's what you should know.
Or in a dark room.
Or in a dark room. But yeah, it's like how much light is the camera letting take in.
Mm-hmm.
How does that relate to f-stop?
F-stop is just like like the lowest number it can go.
Okay. I feel like at this point in my life, I should like actually learn how cameras work. Like I've sat here and I've listened to like snippets of it before in classes, but I've never had like a focal on it. So it's like I hear it and I'm like, and then the other wow. And then like you get into 3D software and like, yeah, you gotta this thing has the same properties as a real camera. Isn't that great? I'm like, no, I don't know how real cameras work.
So yeah, now we adjust the depth of field, kind of create a cool look. And you can adjust that however you like, or you can just disable it if you want to, if you don't want the blur. I'm gonna switch into the render properties and we're in the final steps here. So right here at the top, you can enable bloom if you'd like for another like cool look. You can make it look like a old like Xbox 360 game. Yeah, you gotta adjust the threshold like super low or the intensity.
Oh, I see.
It is kind of making my computer slow down, so I'm actually not gonna mess with it a whole bunch. Gonna save, and final step, so our clouds and fog can render nicely, at least a little more nicely, is in that same render properties tab. I'm gonna scroll down a bit. There's a volume metrics drop down. I'm gonna put the tile size up to 16. Yes, it's still in the render properties, just a little further down.
Oh, I found it.
Tile size to 16 and samples to around 124.
Yeah, get that high samples.
I'm gonna save again in case this crashes my computer, but it might not.
Oh.
And from here, we are actually ready to render. So there's two ways you can do this. You can either go to the render button on the top left and click render image, or you can just hit F12 on your computer. But I'm gonna do render image right now. Clicked it, it's gonna start doing its thing. Might be a little bit. Which ones did you, were you using the, or did you create like a new instance of the clouds?
No.
So while they're panicking, I'm importing some more images planes, taking this way back.
Yeah.
Regarding this.
Yeah. So that's actually so there is a transparent one in there.
Oh, okay.
I was originally using it for like a color reference.
Okay.
There's a second. I actually just made the PNG myself. Yeah.
You did such a good job at this. Thank you so much.
Well, some of them are just default labels, but but as you can see on the screen, I rendered. I have a whole little tune looking thing. Sometimes like the depth of field can be a little finicky because like mine, I used Link as the focus object, but for some reason it's like only like the bottom half of it is like sharpen focus. Oh yeah, I am actually. You know, I did get this issue last night. I think I remember what it was. But yeah, since like some of these things are just like plain, it's almost like focusing on like a single pixel almost. So sometimes like the positioning might be a little weird. This might require a little bit of fixing. But if you want to save it, just for if you already did do your render, hit image, save as, kind of like other programs and stuff. I'm gonna save mine as just like name it something else. Cool link. And I'll save it. Yeah, let me try and solve the clouds thing. Oh, you know what you might need to do actually? Let me redo my render and see if it comes up. Also, if your render is taking a long time, you can go back to the camera and disable the depth of field, and then I'll speed it up a lot faster.
Does it not show like the kernel's rendering? Because I guess they'll like take samples or whatever.
Yeah, it does it like, I don't know specifically what happens behind the scenes, but it's all at once. Oh, that'd
It's kind of
that'd
annoying though,
do.
'cause it's fun to watch like the kernels in like ray tracing render.
It is annoying though when it's like when you're doing it and when they're like rendering and it just takes so long.
Yeah, that's true. I got a good graphics card in this bad boy though, so I think we can.
Is that the one you just got?
Yeah, I just got this like a month ago. So.
What's in it?
It's got a 600 something. They're AMD cards, like so.
I have no idea how to.
Know them off the top of my head. Let me check.
I feel like all the AMD ones are just they're all a bunch of numbers, so it's like I don't even know what the actual.
Yeah, because like I recently learned how to read the graphics card numbers for real, and then it's like I got an AMD one, so now I can't.
Okay, yeah. So all right, I solved the problem.
Oh,
what you got to do actually is the original collection you made for the like cloud and fog. You actually don't need to disable the very right button where it says like the disable and renders. You can leave that on for the original collection. And so while it's hidden from the viewport right now, it'll allow your instances to actually show up. Yeah, so just up here at your original collection, just make sure the little tiny camera icon. When you're trying to just render the view again?
Yeah. Oh wait, I got it.
Got it? Nice.
I don't know why I just didn't want to start.
Did your cloud show up?
No. Yeah,
it's got to be the original collection.
Oh wait, I had it. I had it just the child object of the collection disabled. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was spending a lot of time trying to figure out because working with like the collections and the collection instances, it's kind of weird like that. Like if you disable like the child object, it'll still show up or something. Or if you
I got it.
Got it, nice.
And the graphics card in this thing is called a ray trace 6700.
Sounds epic.
I don't know how AMD grades their graphics cards, but I know that's a good one.
So yeah, if you're for the Zoom people, if your clouds aren't showing up in the render, it's kind of like an amendment to the document. But on the original collection of the cloud you made, just make sure the enable and renders button, it's the very right button in the inspector on that collection. It looks like a little camera. Just make sure it's on.
So we want the camera icon enabled, but
not the check mark and not the eye.
Okay, it's like I'm getting my clouds now, but I'm still getting like the original one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think you keep the camera enabled, but the little checkbox on the actual collection object, the inspector needs to be excluded. Because then, yeah, because my original one's not showing up. I don't know. It's very weird. Like there's like random things, but yeah. Otherwise, you should see your thing and have a.
So what I'd like us all to do in the last 30 minutes of this workshop is work to make a render of your scene, and then we're going to post them in Slack so people get FOMO in this amazing workshop, because this was amazing. And I know that we still have 30 minutes time. It's not over yet. People are still working, but I just want to like legit give a thank you to Steven. This was a phenomenal workshop. Yeah, give it up. Give it up. This really was so clear, well outlined, a lot of fun. These are just things that I want to say. If anybody else wants to say thank you or offer feedback, because we will be doing more of these, and I would like it to like be this vibe. Like this is the high standard for what they should all feel like and be like in terms of preparation, in terms of expectation. So yeah, what are some thoughts from the crowd about how this went and what you gained from it? And you can feel free to unmute yourself or share in the chat. But if you don't speak up, I will call on you. So. Take it away, room. What do we think about this?
Pretty epic.
The epic.
It's cool. But like, never mind.
Go on, Joe.
No, I'm just saying, like, all of like the prompts aren't showing up.
Are not showing up for you?
Nope, they're not showing up.
With the what's not showing up?
Like all of the like characters and like bushes and like plants.
Oh, weird.
Ask her to share this screen.
Yeah, can you share your screen?
Yeah. This is what I have right now.
Yeah.
Hit render. That's what I have to my renders.
Oh, weird. Were you dragging and dropping the images onto the viewport?
No, I was doing just
Whoa.
did like images to planes.
Yeah.
Shift A.
Weird. Yeah, because when you drag and drop it, like they don't import as planes. Let me see if I can figure that out. Oh, you know what? I think you're.
Into my
It looks like your images were somehow still importing because, like, if you look on your inspector right now, you see like all the images they're named as like empty.
yeah.
So that means they're somehow they weren't importing as an actual plane with an image texture on it. And basically it's just like those are almost used as like guides for when you're like actually for like when you're working like
Oh, I see. Never mind.
just within itself. So I wonder if there's a quick fix so you can just swap it and not have it like not have to redo it. Yeah, go through it and like.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
When you can you like import a new one and see if like it shows up, right?
Yeah, hold up.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you just do it?
I want more flowers, actually.
I believe my higher
Can you scale it up?
I'm dry.
I didn't say it. That was the thing during
Oh yeah.
Oh,
the kids thing.
classic.
So things,
Yeah, just
Oh, that's even worse.
connect the alpha back to the
I did do that.
Wait, this is really bizarre. When I render out my image, some of the flower particles just like disappear.
oh what?
Hello? Like straight up, it's just like gone.
It's weird how it's like all bright. It might just be the emission. I can't like super like see on your page, or it might just be it could be a couple things why it's very bright, but it might be this. It might be the sun in your scene or something.
True.
Why do some of them vanish on the render? It's so weird.
I don't know. It's weird how it's. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I think it's probably because the way that the hair renders is like not
Oh
exactly the same as in the viewport, so like it
yeah.
like renders flat or something, so it like squishes out.
You know
some
what I
flower
think it
particles
is?
or something?
Because I know I watched this one thing. I was like explaining how to do that once.
No, that's bad. That's bad.
Did you get it solved better?
What?
Oh, sorry, never mind.
No, I'm just gonna stop
Oh.
sharing.
I know, Tatum, when I was doing something similar, like adding the like images, like like a second particle system. It was you had to like create like a different node setup. So you kind of know how I which one did I do the emission texture for? That was the like the grass. How it was like set to an emission node. There was like a different layout where I had to like put it to an emission and then add like an alpha node or a transparency node and then mix it with the emission. I don't know. It was
I
weird.
think I'm just gonna brute force it.
Yeah, you might just have to. Should I like show the I showed you like the 3D plants and stuff example.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm gonna exit out of my Blender stuff. I'm gonna reshare my screen. Actually, I'll just reshare in a second. And this is in the sample file that's in the file like repository I gave you. I won't be able to give like a tutorial on it, but it's basically an alternative way to create the clouds and plants in your scene. And basically what it's doing there, it's using particle systems again, where, so this is one I made the other night. Kind of looks very similar to the one I just made, but I just kind of want to show it here. It's very laggy right now.
Hello.
That's me just like working on my stuff right now.
Okay. So what I made here is basically volumetric bushes and clouds that are shaded in like a different way. And if you'd like to, you can like click into the sample project and play around with this. It's in a collection titled Advanced. Oh, hold on, I'm not even sharing my screen.
I'm just gonna say.
Okay, I'm sorry. So
There we go.
I made like these volumetric like thingies, bushes and stuff. And basically what's happening is created a particle system with a bunch of little spheres on them. And they're all kind of like added randomly. And I created a second, let me hide some of these other things.
Okay, that's the last one. Real.
And so I created like kind of like a random like sphere object here, kind of super irregular. And I used that to create custom normal values for the actual foliage. So it makes these really like cool toon shaded things. You can kind of see this, the base one here. And I did this just the same way. So if you do want to play around with this, what you can do is in the sample project I have in the folder, you hit Shift A, go to Collection Instance, and create Foliage Instance. And what you can do is move this around. And when you go into rendered view, right now I have it shaded as like another cloud. But if you, it's very laggy. What kind of looks cool is if you resize it in, like you flatten it in one direction. You're able to create like a cool looking thing. I'll just re-enable the other ones I made here. Yeah, that's available for you to play around with. It's in the advanced collection in the sample project. And it's kind of unique. So when you like play around with it, I'll go into the shading tab real quickly. See you. Thanks for coming. What you can do here is pull this up. I'll go back into the camera view on this one. And I already set up some like a small node tree here. Is you can swap the output from the color ramp. So right here is like a color ramp. It's based off the actual like the cloud image that's here already. You can kind of adjust how it looks if you want. Just adjusting like the color ramp and how some of these, how like the colors are kind of like binned. Just sort of create that kind of like toon look. And you can do the same thing if you swap the node tree. So you bring the color from this one to the output. There's also like kind of like a bush looking one. Increase the value of these.
And it's all perfectly color sampled from the 2D machine.
Yeah, basically what I did there is like, I did just like drag and drop one of the, I pretty much just brought them like this, like one of the, yeah. Thank you. Can't pull it up closer, but it basically, like I just clicked into the color ramp and just, I literally just used the eyedropper tool on like some of the colors from like the bush and like some other stuff. And right now it looks kind of funky, just it's like kind of laid out weird, but you create a few instances, resize them a different way, just kind of make it look a little more interesting. It comes out really cool. And I think what's also what I did the same thing with like we did for the fog volume. Not in this one specifically, but you can add like another light and almost add like a key light right behind it. So on that like color ramp, if you add like a pure white at the very edge, you can kind of add like that really like, like a really bright key light sort of look basically to the side. But yeah, this is cool, fun to play with here. Well, that kind of concludes the workshop. The document's available if you want to go through it again. The sample project is available too. To kind of explore kind of like a pre-made version of it, and also check out the volumetric like toon shaded bushes and trees and clouds and whatever. But other than that, thank you for coming. Glad I could have everyone come and kind of learn a little bit. It's actually was pretty fun to like kind of go through my process and teach and what I've learned as well. So yeah, thank you for coming, and hope everyone has a great day.
Awesome.